everyone I think should have a prenup. And I heard Alex Hermosi talk about this actually yesterday, and I loved what he said. He said he doesn't have a prenup, but he was on his way. He asked Leah, his wife, to get a prenup. She agreed because she didn't care about his money. And they were on their way to the courthouse or the lawyer's office to sign the prenup. And on the way there, he said, "We're canceling it. We don't need a prenup. I trust you completely." And that's what it is. Like, you need a prenup, except for with the person that you don't. And so, like, when you know it's the person you don't need it with, then it's not a big deal. But, I think a prenup is just like protection for everyone.
Amberly, it is an absolute pleasure to welcome you to the Inner Entrepreneur podcast.
Hey, Paul, thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. I was just thinking earlier, I've never had a matchmaker on the podcast before. I was thinking that, and then I thought, what do you mean? I've never spoken to a matchmaker before. So I think, as I said to you earlier, I found I heard you having a conversation, different podcasts, and I found it really, really interesting. I found two things I found really interesting. One is this whole idea of matchmaking, because when I picture a matchmaker, it's not you, let me tell you. I have picture of this old woman in a small village in Ireland who goes around a cape over her head, and match. So that's what I'm picturing. And I don't know. You hopefully lots for watching this on YouTube, but if you're listening to this on Spotify or something, that is not what Amber looks like. Just you might want to check the video. Yeah, she's not 80 years old. But that's my picture of matchmaking. So I'm really interested is what is the model, what is the maker? But what's really interesting me from my entrepreneurial side is that you're a matchmaker to high achievers, to wealthy individuals, a high net worth individual, which is a whole different ballgame together. And that really interests me, and I think will interest a lot of my audience. So my first question is, how the hell do you become a matchmaker? Like, is there, I don't think there's a college for matchmakers,
You know what? The interesting thing is there is a Global Love Institute in New York City. And so they certify matchmakers. I've been through their program 20 years ago. I started matchmaking in 1998, back when we had newspapers that had employment sections. I don't know about in Ireland, but in the US, you would open your newspaper and go to the classified section, and there would be job listings. And so I answered a newspaper ad for a receptionist at a dating service in Michigan, where I grew up, and I fell in love with it, and I've been doing it ever since.
And what was it about that you fell in love? I mean, at that stage, I won't ask what age you're at that stage. What were you hoping to do as a career? Had you some plan?
Yeah, I always thought I would be an attorney. I love negotiating. I still do. My husband will tell you.
You're negotiating now, certainly.
Yeah. I feel like I'm very competitive. I love a great argument. I don't take it personally. I feel like I have a skill set that would make me a great attorney. But that skill set also makes me a great matchmaker, because essentially with our clients, we're marketing them, and we're telling people why we see them being a good fit for each other. And quite frankly, people often have an image in their head of what their potential partner should look like, and it's very different from the person that they end up with. And so part of our job is to kind of negotiate on behalf of our clients and get people to say yes to matches that they may have otherwise, swiped away from if they were just on a dating app.
So you took a job as a receptionist. What was it about the industry? Well, two things. What was it about the industry you fell in love with? And what was the transition like? Obviously, you moved away from reception into. So, what was your journey?
Yeah. So I fell in love with the love stories with clients, with matching them up, getting the feedback. I was 18 when I took that job. And so as a young woman, like, to have an insider's take on all this dating, activity and feedback, and finding out the drama and what they liked and what they didn't like, it was just so intriguing to me. I very quickly went into a sales role at that company where I was signing on new clients. And that was, I think that fulfilled my competitive edge. I wanted to be the best at that position, and I was very quickly. And then 20 plus years later, with a co-founder, with Sandra Myers, we launched Select Date Society. And so we launched our own matchmaking firm, which is very different from the companies that I previously worked for.
And I've heard the story of the transition from being an employee and starting your own business. And I think, look, you can't come on without sharing that story because it's quite traumatic. Because I know a lot of people, I'm going to say fantasize. But fantasize, that's the word. A lot of people do go through life going, the what if. What if I started my own business? What would it be like? And I'm going to guess most people never do, which is maybe, by the way, a smart thing, because 95% of new businesses fail.
Yes.
So talk about you. Talk about had you been then in the one company for that 20 years, or had you moved around different?
I'd moved around. I'd been to a few different matchmaking or dating service type companies. And I've heard someone say that really the thing that holds a lot of entrepreneurs back, or would be entrepreneurs back, is a healthy salary. And so I fell into that. I was making a couple $100,000 a year. I was very comfortable. And it is so scary to think about letting go of that steady paycheck and that salary to do your own thing. There's so much fear around, like, what's going to happen? What if no one ever finds me? What if I throw away this great job and end up, starting over with nothing? It's just, there's so much fear that holds you back. So I will tell the traumatic push that I had from the universe. So for years, Sandra and I had worked at this company together, and we saw the pitfalls. We saw where clients weren't being successful. Quite frankly, most of the success stories that company had came from me and Sandra directly getting involved and doing things kind of our own way to push people across the finish line. And so we would kind of powwow and say, we could do this so much better if we did ABC. We had all these ideas. The owner of that company wasn't interested in implementing them. So it's like this fantasy we, played with. Then one day, Mother's Day 2020, I was driving my SUV with my family in the car, and I had a sudden cardiac arrest. Now, I was healthy. I just turned 40. I had no previous heart issues. Literally, my heart, just this electrical thing happened. My heart stopped. I was unconscious, just leaned over, totally unconscious, foot on the gas, drove over 4 lanes of traffic, and head on into a brick home. So
with your family in the car?
Yeah, with my family in the car.
And
so my now husband, he pulled me out of the smoking vehicle. The airbags were deployed. The vehicle was smoking. It was a pretty major accident. Thank God none of my family members had serious injuries. He pulled me out of the car, and by the time he put me on the ground, somebody who was a nurse passing by had stopped and performed CPR. And really, the thing that saved my life, only 5% of cardiac arrest victims survive outside of a hospital setting. The reason the survival rate is so low is you have to have a defibrillator, the paddles, restart your heart within minutes. And if it's, I think, past 7 or 10 minutes, it's just you've lost your opportunity. Thank goodness this all happened within a mile of a fire station. So EMTs were there literally within 2 minutes. They were putting the paddles on me. They brought me back to life. I don't remember any of this. So it sounds traumatic, but when I tell the story, it doesn't feel traumatic to me. Yeah, I have no recollection of any of this. The first thing I remember is waking up in the hospital a few days later.
You were clinically dead, I suppose.
I was absolutely dead. Yes, absolutely. My husband very much, and my daughter very much thought that they had lost me. And so I think that day, changed a lot for them. For me, it really catapulted me into entrepreneurship, because I woke up in that hospital bed and I had such clarity that my time here on earth is short. It's not indefinite, and that I need to get to work doing what I was meant to do. And so I knew very clearly we were going to launch this business. That was May of 2020. By June 1st of 2020, we were set to go. We had a website up. We were rocking and rolling.
That's really, 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 really interesting. A few things you said there. One is that, I suppose the first thing that strikes me is that I speak to so many people on this podcast, so many interesting people. The common denominator is that when I speak to people who have created something that they want and create a life that they want and have been successful in that, is, I'm going to say almost all. I haven't spoken to the person who contradicts this yet. Everyone I've spoken to has gone through some degree of personal struggle event. Not any of them have died, I don't think. So that you're taking it to extremes.
Yeah.
But many have gone through, either lost everything, extreme health, lost businesses, extreme stress. The turning point for me was sitting in my office thinking I was going to die from a heart attack. That's very different to actually dying. But it's interesting to me that people who make major changes in their life have usually hit some sort of wall. And I think that probably is around. I mean, you said it earlier about fear. Where you're earning really good income. You have a great job. I mean, are you what's the full messes with that? And I suppose you really need the wake up call. And so that was a major wake up call for you, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all go through that's life. We all go through
Mm.
struggles, we all go through adversity, and it really is what you're going to do with that adversity. I could have just very
Yeah.
easily said, like, oh, this is really horrible, and clung on to my great job, because of the uncertainty of my health. But instead, it launched me to say, like, now or never.
You also said that when you were working with the previous company, you saw a lot of things that they could have done differently. What sort of things did you notice? What jumped out at you that needed to be done differently that your previous employer wasn't doing?
It was really about the client experience. And so our company has very much a boutique approach. We work with less than 30 clients a year. We're very much a white glove service, high touch. Matchmaking is so personal, and you need to give people the attention and care. The only way you're going to understand your clients and be able to successfully match them is by spending significant time with them. And so I think what happens, a lot of these larger dating service type companies, they have a sales model. They have a salesperson who's signing up anyone and everyone they can, and then they're passing that person on to a matching department who knows nothing about them, and they're just trying to fulfill a contract. They're just sending them out with anyone who fits the criteria. So anybody who checks the boxes on paper. And genuine matchmakers know that it's not about what's on paper. It's about getting to know that client, what will work, what won't work for them. I mean, we do such deep dives with clients. We know about how they grew up, the dynamics in their household with siblings and parents, and their relationship role models. And we have a really deep understanding of what it's going to take to get them into a healthy relationship. And I think that's a missing piece when you get too big with some of these companies. They lose the actual authenticity of matchmaking, or
Mm.
what really makes a matchmaker valuable.
I'm hearing two things here. One is an agency that's almost like a recruitment agency that literally has, numbers, and we want to just match people to it. And once I'm going to give you 10 dates or whatever, I actually really don't care. If something sticks, that's great. I want your money. And the other side of that is, it sounds to me like it requires a very deep understanding of what makes relationships successful, of what that connection is. So do do you have to have a, I mean, do you now have a real understanding of what makes love, connection, relationship work?
I think so. And Sandra and I are both in long-term happy marriages. And so we walk the walk. I mean, we understand not only how to get into a relationship, but the ups and downs and how to sustain a relationship. And our whole team has had a ton of training through the Gottman Institute. They're really leaders in the relationship space. So not only are we matching people, but we know the skills that it takes to get them to keep that relationship. And we offer the tools to our clients to be able to help them to navigate kind of the hurdles in the beginning of a relationship.
So does that mean you're also offering some sort of a coaching service? Is that part of it?
No one thinks they need coaching. And the minute
Yeah.
we say the word coaching is, yeah, especially to our clients who like they're bosses, they rule the world, they do not want to
Exactly.
coach.
Yeah.
But effectively, that is what we're doing, right? We're having conversations with clients every single day, and yes, there's certainly coaching and insight that happens in those conversations.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was talking about 2 or 3 weeks ago to a guest on the podcast. His name is Joey Klein, and he runs an organization called the Inner Matrix. And I mean, it's all about our mindset, etc. But I heard him speak about relationships, and he was talking about how, as we grow up, even in the mother's womb, we're taking impressions that forms, and it could be anger or resentment if this is what our mother is experiencing. And also that's compounded as we grow up and we experience in our family. And he says that in relationships, because in lots of clients he's worked with, he has people who come to him that have shame, all these sort of things, and then they resonate and they tend to attract someone in a similar situation. But in the dating, it's all very. So I'm dating you, so I bring my best self forward. Now we get into a long-term relationship or a marriage, and the shine comes away, and you get to see the real me. So I think that for relationships to work, there's some deep stuff going on. You may be dealing with some deep emotional issues. Is that your experience? And secondly, how do you handle that in a situation where you're matching people? Because obviously, hey, if I'm going to come to you for a dating service, if I'm looking for a partner, and I'm not, in case my wife is listening, but if I was, I'm going to come across as the best guy you can. I mean, I'm going to present myself. I'm not going to give you my, these are the things you wouldn't like about me, Amber. So how do you get to the bottom of that?
Yeah. I think Chris Rock, the comedian, famously said that when you date somebody, you date their representative for the first few dates. And that's so true. We're all the best version of ourselves. And so that's why it's important for us to have a deep understanding of our clients and their attachment style. And that has to do with childhood and how they were loved or shown love by their parents or their primary caregiver. And then also with potential matches for our clients. That's why we're asking really deep questions about family and attachment style and past relationships and past loves. Our job, first and foremost, is to protect our clients. They're paying us a ton of money. We take that very seriously. We see ourselves as kind of that first line of defense to keep anybody away from them who could, on paper, look like a match, but we know at their core is not the right person for them. We don't want somebody falling in love with potential. So our job is to find out if this person could really be their person and protect their time, protect their energy, only put them in front of somebody who really could be a good partner for them.
You mentioned attachment styles. What do you mean by attachment styles?
Yeah, so there's a book I recommend all of our clients read. It's called Attached by Dr. Amir Levine. That's a really great book that will help you understand. But essentially, your attachment style, it could be secure, which is what we all kind of aim for. There's an avoidant and an anxious attachment style. I was clearly an avoidant, like clear as day. And over time, being married to my husband, I've become securely attached. But it's not something that happen overnight. It's something that takes a lot of inner work. But when you're avoidant or anxious and you're matched with somebody who's secure in their attachment style, over time, you will become more secure. But again, it's going to take work on your end.
Yeah, but also don't opposites attract?
Oh my gosh, yes. And so you have this weird dynamic that happens where the anxious person and the avoidant person are naturally drawn to each other because the avoidant person it's just what it sounds like, right? They're avoiding the emotional stuff. And the anxious person is trying so hard to hold on and to chase that person. And it just creates this really unhealthy dynamic. But it's all about understanding that. And it's not that any attachment styles can't work. They can work together if both parties understand themselves and their potential partner and they're able to work through that together.
It's I often joke, well, not a joke, but it is true. And it's true that I don't open bank statements. I don't open credit card bills. And I remember having many years ago, the bank calling me over something and asking me questions, and I just couldn't answer my account. So then they're going, well, can you tell me any recent transactions? And I'm going, no, I can't tell you any recent transactions. So then I thought, oh, actually, no, I possibly can. I said, there's a mortgage still on my house. And I said, excellent. I told them they're in a bank. And they said, can you tell me how much that is, sir? And I'm going, no, I have no idea. Oh, my salary goes in. Can you tell me how much it is, sir? Oh, no, I had no idea. I couldn't guess. So what's interesting to me is that I pay no attention. I pay no attention to that. My wife will return from the supermarket and she wants to have gotten the deal. She wants to get the best price. So she is this detailed thinker financially. but I am this big planner. I mean, I have a plan for us for the, if we live to 100, I have a financial plan and structured investment statements to do that. My wife pays almost no attention to that, other than she trusts me to know it's there. She
Right.
literally pays almost no attention to that. And I don't open bank statements. But so I think in one way I've noticed in my own relationship, that's in one way you go, well, isn't that a perfect match? Because you need long-term financial planning, but you need to pay attention to what you're spending today. And so we match very, very well there. But the challenge is in communicating because there's a different value structure. So when
Yes.
my wife wants to get into the detail, I'm going, I really couldn't care what that costs. I've no interest. I'm no interest in it. And when I want to talk about the long-term planning, she doesn't have much interest in that. So I think it's, for me, and I'm interested to hear your take on this, it's the recognition of those two differences and learning how to communicate about them.
Yeah, and that dynamic is so apparent in good, healthy relationships where you complement each other. In my marriage,
Mm.
I'm an introvert. My husband is super outgoing and extroverted. And so we have that same dynamic going around, social interactions. I have a client who got married a few years ago to a gentleman we introduced her to, and she describes it as being she's the kite, she's the big ideas person, off adventuring and wanting to do big things in the world. And he is the string. He's the one that's keeping her grounded. And it's this beautiful dynamic where you complement each other. And one of you, left to your own devices, would just be off on the deep end somewhere, but the other one is kind of holding you down. And so I think that that's a sign of a good, healthy relationship. But you're right, it's all about communication.
But it's also recognizing. I mean, I'm also an introvert. My wife's an extrovert, and that creates challenges in the relationship because I will want to do things, and my wife going, "Oh, we need to go out," and but uh, you obviously need both. So I guess there's a really deep understanding. It's coming to mind. Is it almost sounds like, to some degree, recruitment agency, and in my experience of business over the years, most recruitment agencies drop into this area of maybe your previous employment where they want the commission, they're just going to throw CVs at you, and then if you've a quality recruitment agency, they're going to go, I'm more expensive, but what I'm doing is I'm really getting to know you as a business, what you need, and then I'm really vetting people. So that sounds to
Absolutely.
me like that's the real difference to what you're doing.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, our clients, they can afford to be here, so they're high net worth, high
Yeah.
income earners. They're paying us 65,000 to $1 million. So they obviously are super invested in our services. And so for us to be able to deliver, you have to realize there's a high level of expectation with that financial commitment. And so we take that very seriously. And yeah, we're not throwing them out on dates with just anyone. These are really quality introductions that fit not only what the client thinks they need, but also that what we see as matchmakers and what we know that they need. And we're able to articulate that to our clients. They trust us because we don't just put a picture and profile in front of them. We tell them, this is why we think this could be your person. And we walk them through what we see in the match.
I know people are listening to this and going 65,000 to a million, so they've probably fallen off their chairs. And I do want to get into that, but, we're gonna have to pause that for a moment because um, I want to go back to your hospital bed if you don't mind. You're sitting there and you have this aha moment. You said it's now or never. We're setting up the recruitment agency. Um, at that point in time, did you know the recruitment agency? My apologies. Okay, don't edit this out because it is amusing.
No,
You
we
did
really
know
are
recruitment.
executive recruiters for our clients' love lives. Yeah, I love
Yes,
that.
exactly. You decide to set up a dating age, but at that point in time, and you had this point of clarity, and you set up a website. Had you decided you were going into the exclusive end? Because I mean, when I say exclusive end, I have no idea what a standard dating agency charges. But did you decide, no, we're not going to be a standard dating agent. We're working with high net worth individuals.
No,
Did you make that decision day one, or did that evolve?
it evolved. It definitely evolved. And it evolved based on the level of clients that we are attracting and what their expectations were. And so we just slowly, over time, from year one to year two to year three, got into kind of the higher market. And along with
Mm.
that came raising our prices. And then along with that came success from those clients and, billionaires, no other billionaires, and referrals came with that. And so that's where we don't pay for ads, we don't pay for marketing. All of our clients come by way of direct referral. And so we got kind of really good at matching high achievers, and they referred other high achieving singles to us. And it just kind of happened almost organically.
So just in case my wife knocks on the door in a moment now and tells me she's divorcing me, which would be a bit of a shock after 36 years, but you never know. Maybe I offended her at lunch. Or what does my network need to be before? So if I have to call you after the show, what does my network need to be before you take me on as a client?
So, we're screening you for your net worth is actually not part of our vetting
Okay.
process. Of course, obviously, you have to afford to be able to pay our fee. We don't take payments, we don't take credit cards. So, you have to be able to afford to wire
Yeah.
us the funds. But beyond that, we're really vetting for things like self awareness. That's the number one quality we look for in a potential client, because if you are not self aware, you are not going to be successful in this process, and it would be like throwing money away. And then we want to look for people who are like kind, reasonable human beings. We don't want to work with jerks. Nobody wants to set jerks up on dates with anyone. You're representing us just as much as we're representing you. So when we vet potential candidates, yeah, we'll look at, we'll look at their home value and we'll look at their income, but those aren't the things that we're looking at when choosing whether or not to take them as a client. And quite frankly, a lot of what we do is intuition. I have to like you. Sandra has to like you. We don't employ salespeople. Sandra and I are the decision makers as far as who we bring on as a client, and we have to feel good about it. And we have to know that we have the resources to get the job done.
So if I turn up and I call you and you go, this guy's an asshole,
Yeah, I
you
would
just
just say, you know what, this isn't the right fit. I
yourself.
could certainly refer you to someone else. I know everybody in the industry, so I'd see if anybody else would be willing to work with you.
I know a lot of I know and mix with a lot of successful and wealthy people. So in my experience, most of them are really lovely people.
For
But there
sure.
is I suppose there is an impression that successful people can fall into that asshole category because they become very successful and arrogant, etc. Is that your experience or not?
So I wouldn't say, yes, I would say the first part of what you said, most wealthy people tend to be really kind, great
Yeah.
individuals. And I think a lot of times what some people interpret it as being an asshole is like a masculine quality. And
And
so women who are high achievers often get stereotyped as being very masculine. And it's because they're doers. They don't take bullshit, they get things done. They know how to operate at a high level. And sometimes that means that you're moving very quickly with a sense of urgency and you don't have time for all the little niceties. And so when you talk about coaching, yes, that is one of the conversations we have with not only high achieving women, but sometimes men need that conversation as well about how are you showing up as your best version of yourself in a softer way, because this is dating, this is not a boardroom. And there's a very big difference between how you walk into a boardroom and how you walk into a first date.
yes, I many years ago, I would have arrived home, and my wife would say to me, "We don't work for you."
Yes, it's hard to turn it off. It really is. And so it's a discipline, it's a practice.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I wonder sometimes about very successful and very attractive women. I think that to some degree they seem to have what I've discovered in speaking with some of them is they actually have a big disadvantage because I think it seems their experience is a few things. One is that if a man walks into a room and he sees a very attractive woman who he knows is very successful, two assumptions I think is going to come to mind. One is she's already dating somebody because why wouldn't she be? And the second thing is that um, you're going to are a lot of men challenged by successful women.
Yeah, so I do think that men have to definitely be confident in who they are to be able to approach that type of woman. And you're absolutely right. I think the women sometimes come across as intimidating. They don't even mean to be, but just their presence could be intimidating. And I always, it's so interesting when I have conversations. Women are always like so afraid of rejection, but men are more afraid of rejection than women are. And I always tell my women this, like, you have to be very clear that you're open to receiving a gentleman approaching you and a gentleman coming into your world, because if men don't have a clear signal that it's okay to start a conversation with you, they won't. They are so afraid of rejection. And so that's a real thing. But that's why I think 80% of our clients are high achieving women. We take both men and women as clients, but women really need the help of a matchmaker, because an attractive, successful woman puts her profile on Bumble and she is just inundated with a crazy amount of messages. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of messages, and like everyone wants to date her and meet her when they're in that safe environment, swiping, where it's okay to approach somebody and you don't have that fear of rejection. It makes them so uncomfortable, and they quite frankly feel like a piece of meat, like everybody's going after them for the wrong reasons. And so they hire matchmakers because they want to be protected. No one wants to feel icky about being approached on a date. They want to do it in a way that has dignity and integrity, and they know the intention of the person who's approaching them.
It reminds me of being at a dinner about half a dozen years ago. And it was there, my wife and some other couples. But the couple sitting beside me I hadn't met before. And I was sitting beside a woman. And we ended up having a great conversation for about an hour or so with a lot of interest. Until, for whatever reason, she discovered I was a CEO and a business owner. Then the conversation changed. And the conversation changed because now she had something to sell to me. Yeah. Whatever it was, I can't even remember what it was. But I do remember thinking, you and I have just had a great conversation for an hour. And now you see me as a source of investment or sponsorship or whatever for what you have. And suddenly the conversation changed. And I was thinking, shit, how soon can I get away from this lady? And it strikes me that, I mean, we were just chatting, I wasn't dating, but it must be that when you're very successful, maybe for male or female, this whole dating thing is it much more difficult? Because particularly if you're a multimillionaire or billionaire or whatever, or if you're famous, are you going to make the assumption, what do these people really want me for? Do they want me for me, or do they want me for my bank account, or to what the world perceives me to be?
Yeah, that is definitely a real fear. I see that a lot with wealthy men. They're afraid that somebody's looking for them. Like, why would she want to date me? Again, it has to do with insecurity, sometimes a lack of confidence. Where am I worthy of somebody who's this attractive, or why would somebody be interested in me? She must be after my money. Those are definitely things we screen for. But I think that when you think about high profile clients, we have a lot of clients who are famous, they're high profile. And so when you think about matching them, it takes a certain caliber of person who's not going to be just overly fascinated with like the glitz and the glam and the fame, but who genuinely sees an opportunity for connection with the person. And so I always lead with saying to someone, look, I know what you've read online or what you've seen online about this person shows them this way, but I want to tell you who they really are and see if that conversation leads to a good connection.
And how do you filter then for authenticity?
It's really through conversations just like this. I have a good bullshit detector. I've been doing this long enough. But it really is, I think the only way to genuinely know someone is to have conversations with them about their family, about how they spend their time, just getting to know them and picking up on the little things that they're saying or sometimes not saying, but kind of reading between the lines.
So there's a whole lot of psychology here, because whether I pay you 65,000 euro or €1,000,000, I mean, even at 65,000 euro, which is a lot of money to most people, if I pay you 65,000 euro, I'm expecting a very high quality of service from you.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, you deliver that expectation, which means the ladies then you would put in front of me, you really have to vet them. And just something I've noticed is that I don't know how many people how many people are Anubis attracted to? I'm going to guess, maybe it's just because I'm married for a very long time, very, very few. I mean, how many people do you actually find that level of attraction? Which doesn't mean that I wouldn't walk into a room and go, there are, 25 beautiful, really attractive women in this room. That's an entirely different thing to going, I mean, how many of those people you're actually attracted to? And the answer might be none.
Yes. So
It's a
yeah, I want to answer this in two parts. Number one, we meet with sometimes 50, 60, 100 potential matches for our clients before we introduce them to anyone. I have
And
a
when you say you meet with them, what level of detail are you going into?
Yeah, having a Zoom meeting with them for an hour, hour and a half, having a conversation with them. I have
That's
a
a huge amount of work you're going into with all these
Yes,
conversations.
it is very tedious work that we do. So I have a client recently who met a great guy, and she was telling me about a conversation she had with her girlfriend, and she told her girlfriend, "Oh, Amber is a great matchmaker. She kisses all the frogs for me in order to find me my prince. I think she's met with 30 different guys." And I pulled up her file. It was 110. And I said to her, "Well, do you want to know the real number of frogs that I've kissed for you? It's 110." And she said, "Oh my gosh, that's why I pay you. You take care of all that." And so that's why people pay us, because nobody wants to go on 110 bad dates, right? The attraction piece is so interesting because I believe that absolutely you deserve to have a partner that you are attracted to and you have strong chemistry with. Nobody wants to just settle. And a big piece of that is finding that mutual attraction. But attraction is much more than looking at a flat face photo. And so when
Of
people
course.
are, yeah, when people are scrolling and
Well,
they're
this
swiping,
is the point I'm making. I could walk into a room and go, that are there 25 really beautiful women in this room? Yes, there are. How many of them are you attracted to? I'm not attracted. They're all beautiful women. I'm not attracted to any of them. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is.
right?
I don't know. I don't know what that is.
So attraction happens in the way someone makes you feel, first and
Yeah.
foremost. It's like the feeling you have in their presence. Can you feel comfortable to be
Yeah.
the best version of yourself? Can you laugh easily with them? Do you feel good when they reach out and touch your arm when they're telling a joke? How do they smell? How do, the sound of their voice, is it appealing to you or not? And so those are the things that you can't see in a photo. I could tell you countless stories of matches that we've made where I have literally had to tell somebody, you will be attracted to this person.
I,
I know this could be your person. They wanted to
well,
say no based on the photo. They said, no, based on the photo, he's not really my type. We literally have to force them to meet, and then now they're together. And it's the best feeling ever when somebody has to call you back and say, "Oh my gosh, you were so right. I'm so glad I listened to you." But it happens all the time. And that's what a good matchmaker does. We really advocate when we see a really great match that somebody's trying to turn away, trying to say no to. We get them to say yes, and we get them into a relationship.
and that surprises me because you must understand the science of attraction then, because which I don't, which is fascinating because what I thought you were going to say is you could match up all the personalities, you could put all the men and women in front of your clients who are really nice people, etc., but you couldn't account for that magic, for that moment of
Mm-hmm.
attraction. And you're telling me no, you can. And how do you understand what I'm attracted to in a woman versus what someone else is attracted to in a woman, or so a woman is attracted to in a man?
It really is about listening. It's about listening to the client, the way they talk about their
So
parents.
you've gotten to know me really, really well,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you really understand.
Yeah, what makes you feel loved? What do you need from a partner to feel like you're loved and safe and protected and taken care of? And then hearing that other person describe how they feel love and how they give love, and having a deep understanding of how these two people could connect.
So in those conversations, you begin to realize there's a connection going on here.
Absolutely.
So my experience of matchmaking is very, very simple. Uh, I was 15 years of making is very, very simple. So a friend was holding a party and walked in. There is a stunning blonde sitting on the couch, maybe, yes, 6, 8 feet away from me. I look at her and I go, that is the girl I'm going to marry. Um, I didn't mention that to her at the time because she was 14 and I was 15. Uh, but I did marry her about 7 years later, and we've been married for 36 years. So maybe I was just lucky. Well,
Well,
obviously I've been lucky. I've
yeah,
been
I
lucky.
mean, you definitely were lucky, but there is also like this sense of knowing, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's what we're all looking for is that kind of unspoken connection when you just like look at someone and you feel like they're your
Yeah.
person. And I'm a matchmaker, so I'm a little woo-woo. And so when
Yeah.
I meet with potential matches for my clients,
You
I
want to sense it.
absolutely, yeah, like I get that feeling on their behalf. I'm like, oh my gosh, I think this is her person.
Do you think as a matchmaker, um, obviously as obviously as a business model in what you do, it makes more sense for you to work at the elite high end because you simply can't do the work you're doing and charge someone $5,000 and interview 110 people. You would be broke. So you simply can't do that. But do you think is it just the same? Are people emotionally and the connection we need with another human being? Does it make any difference? Are your high net worth clients emotionally? Do they have any sort of different needs? Are you looking for something different than the Joe blogs in the street?
So emotionally, the need is the same. I mean, we all have the need to feel loved and connection. Lifestyle wise, you definitely have to have somebody who's going to match somebody's lifestyle. If somebody's flying private and staying at the Four Seasons and someone else has never even flown business class and, can't afford to stay anywhere other than Motel 6. I know I'm in the US, these might not resonate with your European listeners, but like it has to be a good lifestyle match. It doesn't have to be the same. Somebody who has a $25 million net worth doesn't have to meet somebody who also has that much. But if he's earning, 700,000 a year, he's making good financial decisions, he may be a match for her. If again, they have similar lifestyles and values and goals, like how do they want to spend their money? How do they want to spend their time? Those things all matter much more than like the number in their bank account.
Um, but do you advise upon a prenup then if you have a big distress?
Everyone should have a prenup. Everyone, I think, should have a prenup. And I heard Alex Hermosi talk about this actually yesterday, and I loved what he said. He said he doesn't have a prenup, but he was on his way. He asked Leah, his wife, to get a prenup. She agreed because she didn't care about his money. And they were on their way to the courthouse or the lawyer's office to sign the prenup. And on the way there, he said, we're canceling it. We don't need a prenup. I trust you completely. And that's what it is. Like, you need a prenup except for with the person that you don't. And so like when you know it's the person you don't need it with, then it's not a big deal. But I think a prenup is just like protection for everyone.
I think it also depends. Obviously, when I met my wife, we both had nothing. So
Right. And you build it
so
together. You
yeah,
build a life
so
together. Yeah.
it's a very easy decision then because you go well we have nothing, so yeah, we have nothing, and then you build a life together. So in our case, a prenup would be a ridiculous thing because we whatever we have we built together. Uh, and hopefully, I will never have to look for another partner. But if I did at this stage, well, prenups aren't at this. I've always said I would never get married again. But at this stage, and the only reason hopefully I would never have to. But my reasoning would be not that I didn't think I could fall in love with somebody, but that the financial complications. I haven't spent a life building what I've built to then have someone else walk away with half it. And I don't think prenups are valid in Ireland. I think the law is different
Oh, that's
over
interesting.
here. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's different over here. So I said, so I think it's very different if you start as a young couple. I mean, maybe when you and your husband met, you're in very equal places, and now, it could be different in the future. Um, Over this process, I mean, you've been a matchmaker for many, many years now. What have you learned about love and relationship?
I think that like we just said, the money piece doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we're all human beings and we all need love and connection. And
Mm.
it really is true when they say money can't buy you love, but it certainly, I mean, it makes life less complicated in some ways. It makes life more enjoyable when you feel like you have enough financially. But I think that the people who are super successful but don't have love in their life, they feel that. Like if you don't have love in your
Mm.
life, that one missing piece, it impacts everything. You know, studies show that when you're partnered up, when you have your person, you earn at a higher rate, you save, you keep more money, keep more of what you make. I mean, you make better life choices. Your health is better. So I really do feel like finding the right partner impacts everything. And it's so beautiful to see firsthand when somebody starts with us. Often there is a little bit of a sense of loneliness
Wait a
around
minute.
them, even though they have these big, beautiful lives. You can tell there's that missing piece. And then when they end up with their life partner and just see how much that has changed, like that hopefulness and that kind of light in their eyes when they fall in love. I mean, really, I know it's so cheesy, but love does change everything.
It really does. I'm wondering if you've noticed in all you obviously speak to so many people. Have you noticed now what are the ingredients of success? Because you're obviously speaking with a lot of very successful people. And have you noticed what the ingredients are for successful relationships?
Yeah, I think that really the two things could have the same answer for both success in life and success in relationship. And I think it might be resilience because, like we talked about, we all go through struggles, we all have adversity, and it's like, how do you handle that struggle? Same in relationships. Relationships have really great highs, but they also have a lot of lows. And how do you have the resilience to work through that with your partner?
Um, and the question everyone is wanting to ask is, what is the service you provide for €1 million?
Yeah, that's our Founders Club membership. They work directly with Sandra and I as the founders. We're flying out to meet with them personally, to really spend time with them, to get to know their lifestyle. At that level, it's people who are extremely high profile. They really need to be protected, and we need to have a really deep understanding of what type of person is going to fit into their world.
And how successful are you with those people?
Yeah, with all of our clients, we have a 90% success rate. So we don't take
Wow.
clients unless we are confident that this is the right fit for them. And look, we're very boutique. We take less than 30 clients a year. So we're making really good decisions on the front end about who we can help. And if we can't, we're going to send them somewhere else. We're not going to have them as a client. In this industry, reputation is everything, and we value that, and we're really protective of that.
Yeah, I mean, I really get a sense that you know a lot about what you do. You're very passionate about what you do, and you obviously do it with such a level of thoroughness and detail that on those occasions where you're not successful, what can you do? I'm wondering, since that you woke up in this hospital bed and you decided we've got to do this. How much has your own life changed in those intervening years?
Yeah, my life has changed dramatically. I mean, my husband and I, we weren't married at the time. We've been dating for like 12 years. We got married, realized that was something we didn't want to put off any further. We moved to Puerto Rico. We just bought our dream home. So we live a big, beautiful life, I think, because we really do put so much love out into the world. And I feel like it just comes back to us.
Well, it sounds like what was a traumatic experience has transformed your life, transformed your business partner's life, and you've had a great impact on the world. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and it's such an. I mean, it sounds like an unusual topic for the Inner Entrepreneur podcast, but I find it fascinating. I find it fascinating the insights into human nature, and I find it fascinating as a business model. But now, having had this conversation, I think I understand and it makes sense to me why, as a business model, it works for you. So, well done, and thank you for coming to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's been an absolute pleasure.